What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Behind the Spacebar. My name is Will. So happy you have joined us. This is the podcast where we help you try to become a world-class playback engineer by answering any and all of your questions. I'm joined by always as our lovely host, Reese Bagwell. What's up, Reese? How are you, man?
I'm good. I don't know if I've Lovely and Reese have ever gone in the same sense. Maybe Reese Witherspoon, but not me.
That's
So
true.
I'm
That's true.
I'm feeling very special right now.
Yeah, you're the Reese Witherspoon of from studio to stage. So how about that for an
Just
intro? I
minus
think
the talent and the Oscars, all that's good stuff.
that's
Yeah.
right. Just like her, but different in the face. So,
Yeah.
the way this show works, if you guys have not joined us before, this is a brand new format where Reese is going to ask me typically probably two questions per show. I tend to ramble, so we can only fit two questions in a 30-minute show. And I have no clue what those questions are beforehand, so he may catch me off guard. I may have a good response. We'll see. And some shows may be 5 minutes. If I don't have a lot to say, one, that would be a Christmas miracle, and two,
Yeah.
I don't know that would ever happen, but the possibility is there. So, Reese, before we get into our first question, why don't you let everyone know how they can submit questions for me to answer as well?
Absolutely. I'm gonna do one better, Will. I'm gonna show everybody. We
Sweet.
need to let the people know where to
Let the
go
people
and
know. I love
to
it.
check it out. So from studio to stage, IG. That is where you're going to head over. One, you need to be following us. If you're not already following us, what are you doing?
That's right.
Get on that.
That's
But
right.
send us a DM. This is where we're going to collect all these questions and hopefully get them answered right here on the podcast. So you can have your question featured as soon as you get over there and send us a DM. That's where you go. That's all you need to do. It's super easy.
Perfect. I love it. Yeah, we'd love for you to follow us while you're there. At the time I recorded this, we're at 5,100 followers. What's nuts is last week we were at 4,000 followers. And anyway, that's another conversation for another day. I'm shooting for 10,000 by the end of the year. So those of you that are new to following us on Instagram, welcome. We're glad you're here as well too. But yes, head over to Instagram, follow us while you're there, submit those questions, slide into the DMs, and we'll slide you into the question queue. And with that, Reese, I hope you got some good questions for me today. Let's hear our first one.
Let's do it. Okay, this first one comes from Sam. Sam actually sent us this message on Instagram, so good job, Sam. You know what you're doing. Are you using MIDI to control ProPresenter from Ableton?
Good
I was
question.
initially doing that, but recently started using timecode and feel like that works better, but still uncertain of the pros and cons for each in a church setting. So, what do you think, Will?
Yeah, that's really good. And shout out to Sam, who is in our boot camp
Mm-hmm.
that we just kicked off. So, Sam, we're glad to have you there. And this is a really good question. This is one of those questions where I'm a deep thinker. That doesn't mean I'm smart. It just means I really want to think deeply about something before I give an answer. I once saw, side note, this is why we can't do episodes less than 15 minutes because of these tangents. But side note, I remember once seeing someone post on Facebook, my buddy Steve tagged me in it. And they said, "Hey, I started using Ableton 3 months ago to do playback. I'm thinking about launching a site and selling courses showing people how to do it. Anyone interested?" And Steve tagged me and said, "Hey, I think Will's already got you beat." But I thought, wow, there's not many things that I would feel knowledgeable enough within 3 months of doing them
Uh-oh.
that I would feel free to create a course and teach other people as experts. So I say all that to say the way my brain works is I really want to spend time. I want to actually do the thing and spend time thinking about it to give a good answer. I have not done that yet, and this is on my list of one of those things I really want to think about. But Sam, I'm going to give you my in the moment thoughts and what I've thought about so far, and I've had a couple conversations with people about this. And I guess one, we should maybe set the stage for folks. Actually, Reese, as I'm talking, if you wouldn't mind, maybe pull up the Renewed Vision page so we could show people what
Sure.
ProPresenter looks like. We'll talk through it. So ProPresenter is primarily a lyric display software used in a lot of houses of worship. And so it's, project lyrics on the screen so people can sing along. And so years and years ago, 12 years ago, I think, maybe longer, Renewed Vision, the company that makes ProPresenter, released this feature that'll, yeah, there's the site. So you guys watching it on YouTube can see Reese kind of scroll through there. You could see it's not just for churches. I mean, you could see all these companies use it for video playback and stuff. but it's a software that's been around for a long time. So, side note, if you're not listening on and watching on YouTube, head over to YouTube and you can see visually two dudes in their office talking to each other, but you can see these little screen shares when we do it, which will make sense. But
Super exciting, very
super
visually
exciting stuff.
stimulating.
Yeah. If you like to fall asleep or watch paint dry, you'll love watching this
Yes.
podcast on YouTube. So, but all dad jokes aside, 12 years ago, ProPresenter released this feature that allows you to control your lyrics and pull up specific lyrics using MIDI. And 12 years ago, the day that they released it, I did a video showing how to use MIDI, and I built a template using MIDI cues in Ableton to control ProPresenter. And if you've ever done that, you downloaded my template. Even if you didn't download it from me, there's some folks out there that have decided to download my template and offer it as their own. Thanks for you guys for watching as well too and spreading the word. But that's how a lot of us did this for many years, which is drag a MIDI note into Ableton. That MIDI note represents a specific slide, all so that we can have a perfectly synced visual presentation. Doing that with lyrics was really easy. Didn't take that long. And once you did it, it was done. Right. But I believe maybe it's like 4 years ago now. It's still fairly recent. ProPresenter added the ability to control and sync videos in playing back in ProPresenter with timecode. They had a software, I think they still have it, called Pro Video Player. What a lot of people did is ProPresenter for lyrics, Pro Video Player for video playback. If you've used, kind of the industry standard for the like mid-tier bands is Resolume, which does timecode sync. And this is where your video chases timecode. You drag a timecode file into Ableton, you press play, and then that your video software listens to that and follows along. So ProPresenter added that, I think, about 4 years ago. But the beauty of this is it doesn't just follow along with video. You can basically build a presentation and sync your presentation and your video to timecode. So there's a world in which you can have your lyrics show perfectly in time. And you just press play in Ableton, it sends timecode to ProPresenter and it automatically pulls it up. So that's our really long backstory for all of us to be on the same page. But the heart of what Sam's question is should I sync my lyrics in ProPresenter to Ableton using timecode or using MIDI? And Sam, like I said, I've thought about this a little bit. I still need a real deep think on it. My first initial answer is I think I would move to timecode. This year, as well as last year, the two Grammy award-winning artists I worked with were both in the contemporary Christian music space. And one was a worship leader, actually the worship leader at the church we attend here in Charleston, that I worked with last year. And we used ProPresenter for both of those shows. And the way we synced lyrics to Ableton was through timecode. Here's the reasons why I'm leaning on timecode. And I think that's my preference now is one, all I do in Ableton is just drag a timecode file into Ableton and I route it out of Ableton to ProPresenter, right? Which is great. When we did MIDI, we would have to drag individual MIDI cues in and line them up and make sure we have the right slide and then play it back and test it and make sure it works. The workflow in ProPresenter, doing it with timecode now, is I drag a timecode file into Ableton. I make sure that I've got the correct hour, the correct, maybe I'm doing it 10-minute increments, 15-minute increments, however I'm doing that. I make sure I have the timecode file that the person who's doing lyrics is expecting it to be, the correct frame rate, all those things. And then I export a reference file out of Ableton. And I've got a Playback Pro template that I've set up to where I can click a song title, Command-Shift-R, and I do selected track. And within 30 seconds, I have a render where I have timecode either on the left or right, and I have everything else on the other side. And then you give that to whoever's doing your ProPresenter lyrics. They drag that into ProPresenter and they drag in their video, or they program their lyric cues based on that reference file you send them. And then they just enable timecode sync in ProPresenter. I like that because it puts the work not on the playback engineer. Now, Sam, in a church world, you're probably playback engineer, worship leader, music director, and the person doing lyrics. So maybe that doesn't matter. But what it does allow is a volunteer sitting at their house with the free version of ProPresenter to open that file with that reference file loaded in and be able to program to. And then you just you make sure the playlist is set, you've assigned the correct timecode time, and you roll, right? Some of the complications of that is when we were doing MIDI, we could send that across a network. Most install spaces, house of worship spaces, have some sort of network existing. It was really easy to send MIDI over that. With timecode, even though all it is an audio file, at least LTC linear timecode is, you may not have the infrastructure in place. You may need to add an audio interface to ProPresenter. And yes, I know you, worship leader who knows everything, has commented, but Will, you can use Dante. Yes, I know you can use Dante. That's what we use. But you've got to have some infrastructure to send audio timecode output from Ableton. You've got to have an extra output for timecode to your ProPresenter computer and receive that. Whereas with MIDI, you could just do that over a network. It's probably built in. You probably have it all. You're ready to go. I think for all those reasons, I am leaning towards timecode as the way of the future to control that, because it's both video and lyrics. It's division of labor, maybe a little further. It puts all the work on someone else. But I think for all those reasons, 10 minutes later, I'm landing on the answer to Sam's question. I think for all those reasons, I'm leaning towards timecode as a solution. Now, I do have to throw this out as a little teaser. From studio to stage students, we'll learn how to send timecode out over a network, not using Dante, and send it out in MIDI format, and then how to have it be received in ProPresenter in audio format. But that goes beyond the free stuff. That's just a little tease there if you want to know that, become a student. But yeah, Reese, does that make sense? Do you feel like that's kind of clear why I'm leaning towards timecode?
Absolutely. Coming from the church world myself, I was the guy on stage kind of doing all of the above, as Will mentioned. But it wasn't until I became a student, went from studio to stage, that I really got my hands on ProPresenter and started working with it. I preferred timecode. Just again, that's one person's opinion. The one thing I was thinking about as you were discussing this, though, it really does seem like, especially again when we're talking about a church situation, it's gonna be kind of dependent on the setup that you have.
That's right.
What works best for you? How many people are on your team? Are you the person doing everything? Do you have people that you're collaborating with? So, yeah, I mean, one might be slightly better than other, or maybe the way of the future. But again, it strikes me as one of those questions that it's not necessarily right or wrong.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right. I think it's context specific. I actually just thought of what if you've done this for years and you've got 200 songs with MIDI keys programmed?
yeah,
Do you suddenly switch to timecode? And I think the reality is you could just play back that song from Ableton into ProPresenter once and record it, and you're good. But that would take you, for 200 songs, that would take you a day or two's worth of effort to move them to timecode. But yeah, I think context specific, Sam, no right or wrong way. I think you said that really well, Reese. No right or wrong way to do it. Though it's two people's opinion, timecode is probably, and Sam, seems like
yeah.
you agree with this. Three people's opinion, timecode is probably the right approach. So I think that's where I would go. Reese, that does remind me, for people that are listening to the podcast that are interested in this sort of stuff, that have a desire to become a world-class playback engineer, I would encourage you to head to fromstudiotostage.com/template. And when you go there, you can get my basic tracks template, basic playback template, completely for free. You get access to 2 courses. We have something called the playback method. You'll get access to the prep and the program stage of the playback method that will explain to you why you should use playback in the first place, the benefits of it, how to actually program your Ableton sets in a way that's efficient, flexible, stable. Plus, you get access to Backline, which is my entire database and resource on what gear that I use and suggest for playback. So if you're listening to this podcast, you're a smart person, you want to become a world-class playback engineer, the best thing you could do, which will cost you absolutely nothing, head to fromstudiotostage.com/template to go check that out. And we'd love to send you that stuff completely for free. All right, Reese, what's our second question?
All right, we've got a question now from Ashley, and she actually is wondering some stuff about ProPresenter as well.
Nice.
So we
Got a theme. I love it.
Good stuff. All right. So Ashley says, I'm trying to set up where when I select a slide in ProPresenter 7, it starts a recording in Ableton Live 11. I'm starting from scratch, and so I don't have any notes in Ableton, and I don't have a hardware device to create a note in Ableton. Can you please help me out?
Oh, this is good. This is good. And it's funny. It's kind of the opposite of what Sam asked, right? Because if we think about what Sam asked is, Will, how do I use Ableton to control ProPresenter? What's the best way? Ashley is saying, Will, I want to flip it. I want to use ProPresenter to control Ableton, right? Is that the way you're seeing that question?
Yeah.
Reese, if you'll make a note, I think I may have a tutorial that gets Ashley close to this, which is how to control Ableton with ProPresenter. Make a note and we'll look that up and see if we can find it. If so, Ashley, problem solved. Second thing, and then I want to give Ashley some homework and a path to walk down to solve this question is, second thing is, Ashley, because you were controlling ProPresenter, you want to control Ableton with ProPresenter. You do not need a MIDI cue in Ableton. You don't need a MIDI note in Ableton. You need your MIDI note in ProPresenter, right? So that just quick thing up front. And then Reese, let's see. Here's where I'd love to start with this. Again, we've got some tutorials. We'll throw them in the show notes. The way I solve problems like this could feel like a really big, overwhelming problem. How do I do this? I'm just starting. I don't know, blah, blah, blah. Break it down into component parts and let's really clarify what are the problems we're trying to solve. Let's get clear on what are the problems we're trying to solve. So off the top of my head, I think we're really only trying to solve 3 problems. And Reese, you fact check me on this as we go along. But problem one is, how do I send a MIDI note from a slide in ProPresenter? Right? Like if I understand that correctly, I want to click a slide in ProPresenter and I want it to know, I want it to send a MIDI note when I click that slide. So again, Ashley, because you're controlling Ableton with ProPresenter, the MIDI sending piece, the MIDI note comes from ProPresenter. Okay. Does that feel right to you, Reese? Step 1? Okay.
Yeah. We're tracking.
Okay. Step 2 then is the connection piece. And this is where, gosh, Ashley, this is the downside of programs like this, of us just talking, with time between and not knowing the exact context of what you're doing. We basically need to get MIDI out of Ableton, MIDI out of ProPresenter into Ableton. Okay. There's multiple ways to do that. I think the way I would suggest is kind of what I was talking about when I was answering Sam's question, which is, let's network our computers together, which requires no IT knowledge whatsoever. Ethernet cable from Ableton computer to a network switch, Ethernet cable from a ProPresenter computer to a network switch. We use something called audio MIDI setup on both of our computers if we're using Macs, and we create a network session. And we send MIDI from ProPresenter to our network session, and we have Ableton receive MIDI from our network session to control Ableton. Okay. That's what I think is probably the easiest way to do this. Ashley, ask someone who is the IT person at your church. If you're, I believe Ashley says she's doing this at her church, and maybe we're assuming that, but ask someone that's an IT person if you have all that set up. If not, I mean, what, $50 on Amazon buys you all the pieces you need to make that happen.
Yeah.
I know we 100%, I probably have 6 tutorials showing how to do that particular piece. So we'll throw that in the show notes for sure. How does that feel for problem number 2? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think we're still on track. Let's head to problem 3.
So
get it wrapped up.
Problem 1, how do I send a MIDI note from a slide on ProPresenter? Problem 2, how do I send MIDI out of ProPresenter and have it receive in Ableton? Problem 3 is, how do I MIDI map in Ableton? How do I remotely control Ableton by MIDI mapping? Beautiful thing in Ableton, hit Command M and your screen will turn purple, and anything that's purple can be controlled via MIDI. Often when we talk about complex problems like this, our mind kind of melts and we go, Reese, I don't know if you've encountered this with students and clients you've worked with, but Will, I can connect my MIDI controller to Ableton and I can MIDI map a key in my controller to control record in Ableton. But how do I do that from ProPresenter, right? That feels miles apart. But in reality, it's the same exact process because Ableton just sees MIDI notes. It doesn't care if it's a program, if it's a IAC driver. It doesn't care if it's a MIDI controller. It just sees MIDI. So Ashley, final step in Ableton, and I believe we may have a tutorial on this, how to MIDI map in Ableton. I'm almost positive we do on YouTube for free. But Command M, click your record icon. Once you have your connection set up properly, press your slide in ProPresenter that sends your MIDI note. That'll go down that MIDI network connection into Ableton and will be assigned to your record. And then hit Command M again, hit save. It's saved to that Ableton Live set. Just reuse that same set, as make that your template. And then every time you trigger that slide in ProPresenter, or every time you add that same MIDI note to a slide in ProPresenter, it will start recording in Ableton. Okay. So those are our 3 problems. Treat those independently, solve them independently, and then put them together, line them up step by step to solve that problem in totality. How's that sound, Reese?
Sounds good, man. And you kind of hit on this one thing that I was gonna, it was kind of my first thought when I was reading Ashley's question. Um, the specifics of it when we're talking about ProPresenter, yeah, you're going to need to do some digging in on that particular piece of software. But these concepts are applicable across many different pieces of gear that you could run into. Software. I'm a guitar player, so my first thing is I'm thinking about MIDI enabled, foot controllers, like something like a Line 6 Helix or anything like that can send MIDI information out. Same idea. So a lot of these tutorials, when you're going through them, you're making network connections, you're figuring out how to receive MIDI information in Ableton. There's going to be these light bulb moments where you're like, oh, if I can do this in ProPresenter, why can't I do it over here with this other piece of software I'm using? Why can't I do it with this guitar pedal? And if you're one of those guys who's on stage controlling Ableton, all of a sudden the doors just blow off, and it's like, I call it seeing the Matrix, where it's like when Neo can see the Matrix, it's like, I know it, nothing is impossible to me anymore.
That's right.
Like, you're kind of unlimited.
And Reese, I think you're exactly right. The way I talk about that, I mean, you know this as a student for years and first ever bootcamp student. This is the value of going beyond how and getting to the why level, right? Ashley asked a how question. How do I do this? If all you do is go around and watch YouTube tutorials and collect information, you'll have how, but the smarter, most efficient way is to boil that how into the why, which what we did, we broke into 3 component parts, and Reese very well said, now we can apply this to anything, right? Anything can control Ableton. We know how to do that. And then we could probably reverse engineer. How do we do it in reverse? Ableton controls those other things. We just swap it, right? Which is really, really great. So yeah, Ashley, I hope that helps. Check out the tutorials in the show notes. We got more content than anyone else on the, very literally a provable fact. I've created more content, particularly on this subject, but any Ableton playback related subject than any other person on the face of the planet. Reese, fantastic questions today, man. This was a great episode. We got in the weeds a little on that one, but I think it was really good. It related very well. Remind everybody one more time before we sign off, how can they submit questions to have you ask me those questions on our next episode?
First of all, you need to be following us on Instagram. That's where everything's happening. If you want to get teases of what's going on at From Studio to Stage, that's the place to go first and foremost. And then once you're following us, send us a DM. From Studio to Stage, IG. Super easy to find. You're going to see Will's handsome mug plastered all over that Instagram page. Can't miss it. And yeah, send us some questions there. We'll get them answered as quickly as we can. But you also need to be subscribing, hopefully on YouTube, because I feel like despite the fact that you got to look at our faces, there's some good stuff that you need to be watching on these whenever we start sharing our screen.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And we'll
try
to do that whenever possible. If it's a simple enough thing to share a screen and show the solution. So yeah, that's good, Reese. Remind me sometime, maybe in a future episode, I'll tell you the story as to why the Instagram handles From Studio to Stage IG and not From Studio to Stage or Studio to Stage. So that's a fun question showing fun story showing how stupid I can be sometimes. But I'll leave a cliffhanger, right? Cliffhanger. We'll say that for a future episode.
Something to look
That's
forward
exactly
to.
Right. So, man, Reese, thanks so much for joining me, man. These have been super fun. Hope you guys are enjoying the format. If you are, leave us a rating and review. If you don't, then just keep your mouth shut. We don't want to hear from you. We don't like you anyway, and you're dead to us. But if you do like it, leave us a good rating and review. Make sure to follow, subscribe, all the places so you see the next one for free. Again, follow the instructions Reese gave earlier to submit a question. But thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.
All right. See ya. Bye.